It all began with a pattern and with a plan. A plan that the entire universe would take part in to redeem humanity from its great fall. But there was only one who could actually redeem humanity and provide a way out from this fall. That's Jesus. And so this plan led to the darkest moment in Earth's history, the cross. Though this was the darkest moment, it also provided the greatest amount of light to a fallen humanity since before it had fallen. It provided a way of freedom, of salvation, to be redeemed unto Christ. But what was Jesus' mission and ministry after the cross? What is he doing today? Do you know?
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Christian Smith. Welcome to the channel and another episode of Prophecy Undone, where we see how prophecy shows the Bible to be both relevant and reliable. As you saw from the first part of this video, we're asking and now answering the question of what was Christ's mission and ministry after the cross. As we are continuing in our series looking at the sanctuary as it's a prophetic structure, it gives us those answers as to what Jesus has currently been doing in the heavenly sanctuary. If you missed the first videos on the sanctuary, I would encourage you to go back and look at them to see the overview. We looked at the altar of sacrifice and at the laver, but now we are entering into the sanctuary itself, particularly into the holy place. Now, in the Old Testament time, as the priest would enter into the holy place itself, on the right, he would have the table of showbread. On the left, the 7-branch candlestick, and both of those have important meanings. Christ is the bread of life, and he's also the light of the world. Every part of the sanctuary points to him. What we're going to focus on is the item right in front of the priest, which was the altar of incense. Where we begin to see information and details about the altar of incense is in Exodus chapter 30, and we're going to look at verse 7 here. And it says, "And Aaron shall burn a fragrant incense on it. Every morning when he dresses the lamps, he shall burn it. And when Aaron sets up the lamps at twilight, he shall burn a regular incense offering before the Lord." And so, in the morning and at twilight, the high priest was to burn an incense offering to God regularly. Now, as we read that, it doesn't make a whole lot of practical sense to us. But as we read throughout Scripture, comparing Scripture with Scripture, details begin to reveal the purpose of the altar of incense. In Psalm 141 and verse 2, David says, "Let my prayer be counted as incense before you, and the lifting of my hands as the evening sacrifice." As the smoke from the incense was to ascend, it represented the prayers of God's people. Now that we see a little more detail as to the purpose behind the altar of incense, it gives a little peek into what Christ's ministry would be on our behalf as our intercessor. As we look through the book of Hebrews, it makes this clear. In chapter 9, beginning in verse 11, it says, "But when Christ appeared as high priest of the good things that have come, then though the greater and more perfect tent, not made with hands, that is not of this creation, he entered once for all into the holy places, not by means of the blood of goats and calves, but by means of his own blood, thus securing an eternal redemption." We talked before that the sanctuary on earth was a model of the one in heaven. And so after the cross, after the ascension, Jesus ascends to heaven and he enters into the true holy place in heaven, not the one here on earth, and not with the blood of lambs, but of his own blood on our behalf. Now, to add even more clarity, we're going to look at Revelation chapter 5 and verse 8. And it says this, "And when he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures, the 24 elders, fell down before the Lamb, each holding a harp and golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints." So here again, we see this representation of incense representing the prayers of God's people. We always talk about Jesus as our intercessor. It's not just throwing words around, it's literally what he has been doing 24/7. You see, at the cross, it's as though Christ paid the debt for as many as would accept it to be saved. It's like giving a blank check. But forgiveness wasn't fulfilled at the cross because we have to be the ones to accept it. And so after the ascension, after the cross, Jesus enters into the literal holy place in heaven, and he is our intercessor to accept our prayers, to seek to accept him into our life, and to continually intercede on our behalf, because he's going to do everything he can to see us in heaven with him for eternity. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. It actually makes a difference. Subscribe if you're not already, and hit the bell icon so you can get notified when new videos come out. If you want to learn more about prophecy, about what Jesus is doing on our behalf, make sure to stay tuned, because more information will be coming out in the future. And I'll see you in the next one.